Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Aardvark Accessibility Podcast. This is episode 34. I'm one of the co-hosts, Natalie Garza, and with me today is...
Natalie MacLeese, the other co-host.
And she is a digital accessibility expert here to walk us through today's topic, which is the overlap, the handshake between accessibility and SEO. So let's give the viewers a little refresher. What does SEO even stand for to begin with?
Search engine optimization. And it's just some things that you can do on your website to make sure that search engines are more likely to find it, especially when they're searching for particular keywords.
Yeah, and we're not going to get into all SEO basics. We just want to show you guys how much overlap there is between accessibility topics and fixes for your website and SEO improvements. So, starting off with the concept of keyword targeting, basically creating content based on what people search for. So, what is the first wcag success criterion we're going to talk about that overlaps with this?
Yeah, so 1.1.1, which is called non-text content, but this is basically the WCAG rule that says our images need alt text. It says some other things as well, but that's the main thing that most people take away from that one. So you do want to make sure that if you have non-decorative images, so images that are conveying information of some kind, that they have alternative text. So for somebody who can't see the image for whatever reason, they can still get information about what is contained in that image. Search engines can't see your images, so they also benefit from having alt text. Where you want to be careful is that your alt text is for people first. So don't just use your alt text for keyword stuffing for SEO. Make sure it works for people first.
Exactly, yeah. Would you be embarrassed if this gets shown to a person, or will this be actually helpful? So, alt text, a great way to incorporate keywords. What's the next way to incorporate keyword targeting that also overlaps with accessibility?
Yeah, so your content itself. So we have 3.1.5 reading level. We want to keep things to about an 8th grade reading level. So if you're not in the US, that's around like junior high, like where you are when you're 12 or 13 years old. Very friendly, straightforward language. That is going to be helpful for the search engines to ingest that and figure out what your page is about. But it's also helpful for the people who come to the site. They're busy, they're distracted, they don't have time to read a dissertation, right? They just want the information in plain language as quickly as they can get it.
All right, what's the next success criterion?
Your page titles. So it doesn't actually appear anywhere on your page, but it appears on the tab in the browser, and it's the title of each of your pages. It does also show up in search engines, and this is WCAG 2.4.2 called page title. So every page of your website should have a unique and descriptive name. So every page of your website can't just say best services ever, because nobody will know what the individual pages are about. So it has to say home, best services ever, about us, best services ever, etc. And you need to make sure each page is unique so you can tell them apart, and each page is descriptive so that when someone lands there and they hear that title read out to them, they understand what the page is all about. Doing that also helps search engines understand what your page is all about and what the difference between all of your pages are. So there's a lot of overlap here between SEO and accessibility.
Yeah, because when you're looking through the search results, Google wants to show people actually relevant pages, and if your page is titled accordingly, they're more likely to show it.
Exactly.
All right. What about 2.4.4 link purpose?
Yeah, so you don't want to use link text like read more or click here because that's generic. What am I learning more about? What am I clicking? Where am I going? The actual text that's linked should give a hint about where it's going. That helps to reinforce keywords for that page. So if I have my about page and I link about super services, then search engines are going to have that keyword now for the about page. They're going to understand this is the about page for super services. So we want to make sure that there's extra context in there. Read more about this topic, learn more about this topic. And then instead of click here, you would want the name of where you're going, right? Download this document or visit our contact us page or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, because on a website with 100 pages, click here could go anywhere. Or even outside the website. It can take you to a whole millions and millions of websites. All right, so next on the list, 2.4.6, headings and labels. So similar.
Yeah, so another similar one, but this is if we have a long page of content, we want to break that up into sections, and each section should be started with a header that is actually marked up in the HTML as a header. So that's really helpful for accessibility because it helps to pull an outline of our content out for assistive technology users and helps them navigate around the document and find the relevant sections they want to read. But it also helps us to tell search engines what kind of content is on this page and how is it arranged and how is it organized, so that when it's indexing it for returning search results for keywords, it can tell more easily if your content is relevant.
And last one, 1.2, time-based media, which I think ties back to the images.
Yeah, so that's a guideline instead of a success criteria, but there's a whole bunch of success criteria under here that deal with audio and video files. So essentially, a search engine can't access your audio file or your video file to figure out what's going on in it. So the way that you would address that is to provide a text alternative, which could be captions, transcripts, etc. Those happen to also be really helpful for people with disabilities. So people who can't hear the video, people who can't see the video. We have different ways that we want to provide that information to them. Or also just people who are trying to watch a video on a train, right? And they can't have the volume on. Because if you have a podcast, you have, every episode is this rich content that's talking about a certain topic. And you definitely want that indexed in search engines so that if people are looking for a topic you've discussed on a podcast, they can find it. And the only way that's going to happen is if you have that text transcript of your podcast and or captions on a video, that there's text in some way that that search engine can grab onto to figure out what that video or audio file is all about.
Could you say that search engines are maybe equivalent level as people who are blind?
So I think I would compare a search engine or a search engine crawler more to assistive technology, where in both cases we have just a simple machine that is trying to ingest and understand content. And they both have very similar capabilities. So they're not able to, see or interact with anything on the page. They're not able to get information presented as videos or images, and they're not able to get text that's presented in images. So all of the same kind of limitations apply to both a search engine and assistive technology. So the whole process of making something search engine optimized is about making it readable and ingestible by a search engine. And the whole process of making something accessible is about making it readable and searchable by assistive technology so that the assistive technology can then present that to a user. So the end goal is different because when I'm doing search engine optimization, my goal is to make sure search engines know what my page is about so they can send more traffic to me. When I'm making my page accessible, that's about ensuring that anybody who comes to my page can get my content. So the means by which I accomplish those two goals are very similar.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's why we wanted to make this episode, because it's just undeniable. There's so much overlap. All right, so this next part, a lot of search engine optimization relies on site health. So you want to go into the first one, 2, 4, 5, multiple ways.
Yeah, so this just means that you have to have multiple ways of getting to the different bits of your content. So you might have a main navigation, you might have breadcrumbs, you might have a sitemap, you might have a bunch of links down in your footer. So just all different ways that people can get to your content. And that is helpful for accessibility because it gives people multiple ways of getting to the same thing. They don't have to try to memorize this one perfect path to getting to something that they want. And it's helpful for search engines because it helps them understand the structure of your website and how your content relates to each other. like how one page relates to the other pages on your site and how those are arranged.
Yeah. Like when we say crawl, like the search engine is literally crawling every single link and going through every single page on your website. All right. Next, 248 location.
Yeah, so this is when I'm sure we've all seen it at the top of a web page. There will be little breadcrumbs that let you know you were on the home page and then you went to services and now you're on web design services. So it's really easy to see at a glance, like, oh, this page is part of services, which is a section of this website. So that it's really helpful for people with cognitive disabilities and memory issues, and helpful for a lot of different cases for accessibility. But again, it's another mechanism to help a search engine understand how your content is structured and what the hierarchy is and what the relation between pages are.
Next, we have another whole entire guideline, 1.3 adaptable, which is all about semantic HTML, your
All about
favorite.
semantic HTML, one of my favorite topics. So HTML, all those little tags, all those little P tags and H1 tags, they all communicate what type of content that's included inside that tag. That helps search engines understand what the different bits of content on the page are, and it helps assistive technology understand the same thing, so that a user can understand, oh, that piece of content is more important because it's an H1. So that tells me that's a top level heading for that page compared to a paragraph tag that's maybe just a piece of content and maybe there's 50 of them on the page.
Exactly. So that's a whole guideline. We recommend go checking each one out individually. And then the last one on the list we have is 1.4.10 reflow.
Yeah, search engines love mobile design. We are seeing, of course, there's been a trend, especially since smart devices have come onto the market, that more and more web traffic comes from mobile devices. So we're over 50% of web traffic is coming from mobile devices. So when search engines are looking at sites, they are looking at sites that work well on mobile devices. So having a page that is responsive, works really well on a phone, everybody can get to all of the content, that's going to be a priority for search engine optimization. But it's also a priority for accessibility. Number one, because people will be using all different types of devices to access your site, and you want to make sure it works on all of them. But then number two, because people with different disabilities might use zooming and panning and screen magnifiers and different ways of getting to content that maybe they would otherwise have a hard time seeing or perceiving.
Yeah, because generally, if your website works well on mobile, it means somebody on desktop zooming in 200% is probably going to have a good time getting to all the content.
Yeah, it should work really well for them. Of course, you want to test it to make sure, but that's a really good way of doing it.
Mm-hmm. All right. And then the last SEO concept we wanted to talk about is earning links and mentions, which generally is not too big of an accessibility topic. However, if you have well structured, easy to read content and you follow a lot of the accessibility guidelines to build your website, it is more shareable. It is more likely to get mentioned. So,
Yeah, people will want to interact with it more. So you'll get benefits from that. And more people will be able to interact with it. And more people will be able to share it online and tell their friends about it. So it definitely helps.
yes. So, with that, where can people go to improve their accessibility and SEO?
Yeah, so we don't have any SEO specific tools, but we've already talked about improving your accessibility is going to improve the SEO of your site. So come on over to aardvarkaccessibility.com. You can test your homepage for free. We'll show you all of the automatic issues that we found on there and tell you how you can fix them.
Yes. So, with that, thank you guys for watching. That was episode 34 of the Aardvark Accessibility Podcast. We will talk to y'all next time. And now, for you LinkedIn and YouTube viewers who stick around, I didn't prepare an emoji, but I think we should do handshake. I'll
Wait,
make our hands overlap. Well, I think if you're doing that way, I have to do this way.
I know it's hard to tell because it's mirrored, right? You are mirrored and I'm not. Okay, we'll just both do it both ways and then you'll have footage that you should be able to use either way.
That's a good one. And